Hi, this is Jayaraj. In this screencast, I'll walk you through a simple string expression evaluator that I implemented in Python. The approach can be implemented in any programming language. So let me just run the program and show you how it works. So basically we can invoke the program, and let's say we have expressions, string expressions, expressions specified as strings of this form. Now basically the evaluator can take that, then process it and give you the output, and it could be more complex expressions like 1 plus 2 plus 4. It can be nested expressions and so on. So when we want to, so what would be the application of this? Like for example, let's say you are reading data for machine learning or some data analysis application, and then you want to do some data conversion, format conversion, or let's say you want to apply some conversion formula on the input data. Now you could take that expression, conversion expression or conversion formula from a configuration file. For example, these kind of expressions could be taken from a configuration file and then applied to the input data based on the some attribute of the input data. Different expression, conversion expression could be applied. So similarly, there could be other applications. So of course, one simple way to do this in Python would be to use Python's built-in eval function. But that is not a good way to do it, partly because that can raise serious security concerns, because Python's eval function operates with the full expressive power of the Python interpreter. So if the input expression contains arbitrary code, you could end up executing that. And even if the input expressions are from a control source, it can still end up, if the expressions have, for example, variables, it could end up polluting your namespace, like your program namespace. So it's always good to have a separate evaluator. Now so these are actually a couple of unit test cases, and this is a test case which takes the data from the command line. So when we want to do something like this, basically because the input is actually in a string form, of course we could also read it from a file. Basically there are three steps in order to achieve this. One is, first step would be to split this into tokens. So for example, here first token would be 1, then plus, then 2. Or let's say this is let's say 10 plus 20, and this should be 30. So first token is 10, then plus, then 20. So that is tokenization. And then second is parsing. So parsing is generally converting an unstructured sequence of strings or data items into a structured form. That is usually the structure is that parser generates is called an abstract syntax tree, but it could be something else also. Then the last step would be evaluating. So we once you create the an in-memory representation, a structured representation, we want to evaluate and get the final result. And of course, in order to do tokenization and parsing, we could use a parser generator. So we could treat this as a simple DSL, and then we could use a parser generator, like for example Antler. But this expression grammar is pretty simple, and I think using something like Antler is too much of an overkill for this. And so here is a very without using a parser generator, a direct implementation of this. And this has an advantage that it's pretty efficient, in the sense that this particular implementation that I have done actually combines parsing and evaluation steps into a single combined step. So instead of parsing and generating a parse tree and then evaluating on it, it directly evaluates while parsing. So it saves memory and time, of course. So let's see how it is implemented. Then we will make a few modifications to this. So the basic evaluator is implemented as a class. The first step is tokenization. So tokenization is implemented as a function, but the evaluator takes a tokenizer as a constructor argument, and the default tokenizer is what I've implemented here, but we could plug in something else. So now, I won't walk you through the code in in syntactic detail, too much of syntactic detail, but the high level, Python has a very elegant concept called generators. So that is actually used to implement this tokenizer. So generators actually generates what can be described as lazy sequences. So instead of, so the input is a string. So instead of outputting, so ultimately the tokenizer, we want to output a sequence of tokens. So input is split into tokens and the sequence is output with the tokenizer. So instead of allocating a list and putting the tokens in that and returning that list, what this tokenization function does is it goes through the input character by character, and then whenever it encounters a delimiter, whenever it knows that a token is ready to be consumed, it uses Python's yield construct to give that particular token back to the caller. And so it generates these tokens in a lazy manner. So instead of pre-allocating the list and filling everything in. So this is definitely more space efficient. And it's interesting, you can look up how lazy these generators are implemented. So basically what happens is when the first yield statement is encountered, actually this function returns with that value, and when again the function is called, the function actually re-enters at the point at this particular, or at the point after the yield statement. So this particular generator functions are special functions with multiple entry points. That's how it is gets implemented in the Python, in the Python interpreter. Anyway, so we generate a lazy sequence of tokens using this yield statement. And what the evaluator does is, so it uses the default tokenizer, and then there is a utility function next token, which basically so the next on the generator. So when we first call the generator when we first call this such a generator function, it actually creates a generator object, and then we can call next on that object to get the elements of the lazy sequence one by one. And if there is nothing, then it generates a stop iteration exception. So it takes care of some of the bookkeeping. Like for example, if there is an exception, then it will return none unless the mandatory flag is set, in which case it will return a parse error. So it is pretty straightforward, except the only extra logic here is that in certain situations we may take a token and put it back in. So since we cannot put the token back into the lazy sequence generated by the generator, we will just simply store it. And when the next token is called, if the return token is available, we will return that. Otherwise, we will invoke the next on the generator. So that is the kind of logic. And here, so here, once the tokenization is done, we basically call the parser routines. So this is a parser and evaluator, and it's a combined routine, which basically goes through the tokens and tries to find patterns. And whenever there is a pattern match, it does the evaluation. Instead of constructing an AST or something, it will directly evaluate. And then so at a high level, the expression has a grammar like this. Like an expression is either expression plus expression, expression minus expression, and so on. But it is difficult. We cannot implement this grammar directly in code, because this will result in an infinite recursion. Like, for example, if expression is a function, if we say expression it results in invocation of expression and plus an expression, this will result in infinite recursion. So we have to have a grammar structure without this kind of this is called left recursion, because we are actually going to parse it top down. So we will avoid this left recursion by having the left hand term always like, for example, expression is is described in terms of a term and expression. So the expression basically deals with expressions containing plus and minus, because they have the least precedence. And then the term deals with sub expressions containing multiplication and division, because they have a higher precedence. And finally, the factor is the identifier or numeric or expression in parenthesis. So this actually avoids left recursion, in the sense that the left hand side there is no cyclic invocation if you follow the left hand side term. So for example, here expression invokes term invokes factor, and factor invokes either identifier num, or we are matching this left parenthesis. So there is no left recursion. If this is not clear to you, then this is actually standard parsing, top-down parsing. So you can look up some documentation on the internet, but it's also clear from the implementation. So when we want to evaluate expression, we given some a list of tokens or a sequence of tokens. So here you can see that expression is term plus expression, or term minus expression, or term, right? So this is expressed here as term expression. To evaluate expression, we have to evaluate a term. Then we will see if there is an like an operator following the term, and if the operator is plus or minus, then we'll evaluate the expression following that, and then the result is added or subtracted. But if it is if there is a op and that op is not plus or minus, then we will just put back the because it's not really the token that we are expecting, so we'll put it back. And term, again, it has a similar structure. Only thing is that it is at the next level. So first it expects a factor. Then if there is a operator, and if the operator is star or division, then we will expect another term following that. But if this is not the case, we will put back the token. And factor, if it is starting with a parenthesis, then we'll evaluate that. Otherwise, we'll simply try to convert the token to float, because that is the actual value, and then we'll return the value. So this is so here you can see, we are not creating a syntax tree, but we are directly evaluating as we parse it. So now this works. So now this current implementation does not support variables. So now let us say we want to say something like this: 3 into x plus y. Now how do we provide these variables, and how do we evaluate variables? So we can actually provide variables as simple maps or dictionaries, mapping the variable names to values. This is sometimes called an environment in programming language. So we will add a env parameter to the constructor, and then we'll say self dot env equal env. So we'll take the supplied environment, and now where do we use it? So when we evaluate the factor, we will first try to convert that to a number to see if it's a value, and if that is not a number, then it is probably an identifier. So what we can do is, let's say we try something like this: self dot env dot get. So if it is not a numeric value, we will try to see if that token is present in the environment, and if it is present, then we will return that. Otherwise, we will raise an undefined identifier error. So that's how we we can support variables. So let's see if this works. So let's say instead of this, I say 3 into x plus y. There is some x is so this should be 12. Yeah, so 3 into x plus y is 12. So let's say 3 into x plus y plus 1 is, so x plus y is, that is correct. So we have implemented variables. Now let's say one small optimization that we may want to do in this. Now let's say that these expressions in your particular application, these expressions are could be like large expressions, and it may be called repeatedly in the application over a long period of time. Then what happens is we end up re-parsing and re-evaluating these expressions every time. So that is not very computationally efficient. So we want to kind of, so a simple optimization we can do there is something called memoization. It is simply, this is used in functional language. It's simply remembering the last, the previous evaluations, and then if a evaluation request matches any of the previous evaluation, we can directly return the result. So we can implement this using, so I'll create a dictionary, and so when eval expression is called, when here do is called, evaluator do is called, this input is a string, right? So what we will do is we'll simply look up if there is a matching result in the memoization map, and if val is none, then we will evaluate it, tokenize and evaluate it, and then if evaluation is required, then we will store the value for the next time and then return the value. So this is so it should still work, but only thing is that so let's say we just print whenever memoization is invoked. So let's say we so this expression is 3 into x plus y, right? So let's say I enter the same thing here. You can see the second time it invoke it, actually you get the memoized value. So this is a very simple but quite effective technique to improve the execution time in such cases. Of course, if this is a long running program and if you're going to deal with a lot of values, uh, then your memorization map may grow. Then in that case, you may want to remove some older entries. So then you have to have a little bit more efficient memorization technique there. But that would be a direct extension to this. So hope you learned something from this, and this code is available in my GitHub repo under PyLib Expressival. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.